Today is the 7th of October 2019 and I'm just about to submit my Year Abroad project, which is my first dissertation at the University of Cambridge, in 2 hard-bound copies and an electronic submission as well. So I'm back now. I've just submitted my Year Abroad project and done some mild shopping from Sainsbury's. And I really ought to get back to work, but I'll catch up with you later this week and tell you all about how I wrote this dissertation. Hi, today is Tuesday. I've just met my director of studies. She's a supervisor for the Italian department, so I haven't met her before, but she's really nice. And apparently I'm all set for the entire term. All my supervisors will be contacted shortly or have already been contacted. And it's all good. I've got one more thing to do today, which is the introductory session for MML Part 2, which is the 4th year. And that's compulsory for all students. Also, later today I'll be telling you all about my Year Abroad project and my dissertation, which has also been the subject of my oral exam, and also give my advice on how to write better essays. So the project that I set out to do during my Year Abroad has been an 8,000 word dissertation on German foreign policy during the Cold War. Now, it took me a long time to write that, and I had a very, very long time to prepare for it. Actually, what I want to talk about today is how to write an essay of a normal length of about 2,000 or 2,500 words. But first, let me tell you the stages that I went through to write my dissertation, and then we'll apply that to a normal essay, and I'll tell you how to go about that. For my Year Abroad dissertation, I started gathering some materials at some point in October last year, and that's while working in Vienna. I tried to start reading at the same time, but there was so much going on in my life at the time that I really couldn't. So I spent about 5 months until January or February just gathering the reading list and thinking now and then how I would like to structure this essay. Only then I started reading at some point in spring this year, and it was really a lot of reading to do, especially that it was a field that I hadn't really studied before, and I spent about 2 months only reading just to be able to write my introduction and first chapter, but that really helped me in writing the entire essay because it gave me an overview of what it was actually that I wanted to write about, and how the politics of the Cold War worked, which is quite complicated stuff, as you can imagine. I had already written my first chapter by the end of June this year, but the main body of writing I did in July, and that's when I completed the writing stage. By the beginning of August, I had already sent a draft to my supervisor to get some notes back and some suggestions, and then I went on holiday and to Italy, and that video is coming soon as well. I filmed some stuff over there, but only then did I start polishing my essay at some point in September. I went through it multiple times and reordered some arguments, also cut some words, because you also have to think about the word limit, the word count. You get great penalties every 100 words that you go over your limit. So I had to cut down on some words. About 3 weeks ago, I started proofreading my essay, and I find this proofreading stage really, really important, especially if the essay is graded. So you should definitely consider using an online proofreading tool alongside the one that Office provides. What I found the most useful was the free version of Grammarly. I just pasted the text into an online text editor, and Grammarly went through it and highlighted mistakes. Some of them weren't really mistakes. You've got to be smart about using a proofreading tool, but make sure to use one and proofread your essay at least 2-3 times, because there will be mistakes that you hadn't seen before. So you can see from my experience of writing this 8,000 word dissertation, which had an introduction, a conclusion, and 3 chapters in between, that in writing any essay, you've basically got 5 stages that you've got to go through, and based on the conditions that you're writing the essay in, whether it's a 1-hour essay in an exam, or a 2,000 or 2,500 words for supervision, even a long 10,000 word dissertation, you might want to strategically prioritize different stages out of these 5, which are: number 1, the reading stage; number 2, the planning stage, really important; number 3, the writing stage; then the polishing stage, I'd say, and then the proofreading stage. Now let's go through each and every one of these and see how you can improve in every step of writing your essay. So it's not just about the writing, it's about every step that you take to get to where you want to go. Alright, so let's talk about the middle ground situation in which you've got to write a 2,000 word essay on a given topic for a class. So the first thing you typically do is go through the reading list that you got at the beginning of the class, and then go to the library and gather your bibliography. Gathering your bibliography first is really important, because while gathering this bibliography, you start thinking about what those topics are that are encompassed by the title of the essay. It's where the creative juices start flowing, and as much as I'm an advocate of structure and planning, I also value creativity very much, and going to the library, searching for the books, going through titles and content pages, that's really what gets you moving, and that's really what I found the most inspiring stage of an essay. It's the very beginning, where you're going forward into an unknown or almost unknown territory, and you've just got to make an essay out of it. That's where you start pushing yourself. So once you've gathered your books and articles from the library or online, you might want to give yourself half a day or so doing something else, thinking about something different, and let your brain sit on it and think about it in the back of your head. Alright, so after you've taken a bit of time off to do something else, you might want to start reading. And when you're reading, you will want to take notes, but you don't have to take notes of everything you're reading. Try to start by reading the entire texts or entire chapters before starting to take notes, because that way you'll form a greater understanding of the breadth of the topic that you're getting into, and that way your notes will be that much more relevant, because you're not taking down each and every detail that you might find interesting and important in the moment, but might not be essential for your essay. So you might want to spend 1 or 2 days reading for the essay before starting to plan it, and then make a plan, and then maybe write and read some more at the same time, or read a couple more days and then start writing. You might have a better idea of what to read in order to create a compelling argument that will convince the reader. So as you can see, the reading stage can be combined with the other stages as the situation requires it. After that, you might want to start planning. You'll know when to do that, because you'll have a spark at some point. You'll have a moment when you'll know, this is what I want to write in my essay. And even though that might not be the final shape of your essay, you'll sit down and write a good plan. And that's stage number 2, the planning stage. It's really important to write a plan of your essay first, even if you're in an exam, for example, and you're writing an essay in 1 hour. Spending the first 10 minutes to make a plan for it is really, really useful in shaping your essay and making sure you don't go astray, you don't give unnecessary arguments or give information that just shows that you've read a lot but doesn't help your argument in any way. Also, in this planning stage, what I do is gather any quotes that I've written down and categorize them based on the different parts of the essay. So make sure where you want to use those quotes and what kinds of arguments you want them to support. Because any quotes or paraphrases from other authors you might add are always there either in support of your argument or to be refuted by your argument, which is basically also supporting your own argument. But make sure you only add them when they're absolutely necessary, because otherwise it seems redundant. Now, after you've made a good plan, you've got to start writing. The writing stage might seem the most daunting part of everything you've got to do for the essay, but what I do is read extensively before starting to write, and then write from your own memory. Don't look at the notes at first, don't try to copy any quotes, just write out the arguments as if you were developing your plan. And a good way to do that would be write the introduction and even the conclusion first, because in the scenario we're in, you have the option to add stuff in between afterwards. And some advice that I got from one of my supervisors was actually in the exam to leave space for the introduction and start writing the essay after I'd made the plan without writing the introduction and leaving it for the end, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, but it might be a good way of having a really strong introduction, because at the end you know where the essay is going and has arrived. So if you give a sense of that in the introduction, it's just brilliant. You know, you show that you're really concise and you know where you're going. But in our scenario right now, I really recommend writing out the main ideas in the introduction, and then each paragraph should be in support of an argument of yours, and therefore should start with a thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement of each paragraph and each argument should be in one form at the beginning of the paragraph and in a different form at the end. And in between should be the analysis of that thesis statement and the supporting elements, the quotes, the examples. And each paragraph should be organized like that: thesis statement, analysis, examples, thesis statement in a different form. Now, when you do that, make sure not to be too systematic and to thus completely lose your flair, your writer's flair. It's really appreciated if you've got your own voice that you can put into the way you're shaping your arguments. I'd really recommend being organized and structured, and the plan should be a really good one, but don't forget about your creativity and your spontaneity. So after you've written a first draft of your introduction, your conclusion, and the paragraphs in between, your arguments, then the writing's done. The most daunting task has been accomplished. All you have to do now is polish it. So the sky is suddenly overcast now, classic British weather. I've got to stay near the window so that I've got a bit of light to film in. So now that we've reached the polishing stage, you should aim to not add any more arguments, but maybe add more elements that would support your arguments further, or cut elements that you find to be redundant, or cut on words. So here you should really aim to improve the structure, read through your essay a few times, see how well the ideas are linked. Maybe some arguments are better emphasized than others, and you might want to make them more even. Sometimes, for example, you might forget to give a conclusion to one of the paragraphs, and you really should rewrite that thesis statement at the end of the paragraph to make the argument even more powerful. You should aim not to rewrite your essay entirely during this stage, and this should be avoided by writing a good plan at the beginning anyway. So that's why a plan is important again. Alright, so after you've polished your essay and your ideas, the last step is proofreading. And even though you might be really close to the deadline, try to proofread it at least once. Now that's it's really important so that you make a good impression on your supervisors or your teachers, but it's the most important if the essay is graded. Try not to go over the deadline of a supervision essay or a class essay just for the proofreading. Quickly add the bibliography, then you proofread what you've written, and using an online proofreading tool is not absolutely necessary if it's not a graded essay or a dissertation, as I said. So it rained for about 20 seconds and now the sun is back, so I can finish this video in a great lighting again. This might not be the definitive guide to writing a first-class essay for a humanities subject, but these are the main things that I think about when writing an essay, and they have helped me develop over the years writing style that I've made my own. It's also helped me move on from the more knowledge-based essays that I used to do in high school towards the more argument-based essays that I'm doing now. Arguments are really the core of academic writing. So I hope this video helps you write better essays for university, and I'm sure they apply everywhere, wherever you are in this world. So by going through these 5 stages in each and every one of your essays, you make sure to yield consistent results every time you set out to write one. And at university, that's what you want to aim for, consistency, because that will help you throughout the year and even in the exam. If you reach a point where you can consistently get great results, then in the exam you don't have that pressure anymore to give your best in order to get there. Managing to give your best is even better for you, but otherwise you rest assured that you can get great results just because you know how to consistently get there. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep doing these videos, and don't forget to share it with your friends so that they improve their academic writing skills as well. I'm now going to the introductory session of part 2 of my course, the first faculty organized meeting this term. And I'm really glad to be back in Cambridge, as you can imagine, and I'll be back next week with a new vlog and some more tips on how to win at university. Bye!